Voters began arriving early for the start of Londonderry's town meeting on Tuesday, March 3rd, and it wasn't long before a line was forming outside the door of their historic town hall building in South Londonderry. Once they were inside and seated, and Doug Friant appointed as the moderator, residents and voters began clawing their way through a warning that contained 19 articles, including a couple that prompted some extended discussion, a proposed 1% local option tax, and an advisory, non-binding vote on whether the town should have, quote, the opportunity to develop legal cannabis-related businesses and to form a healthy, safe, locally based marketplace within Londonderry for cannabis goods and services, unquote. But first, there were 2 new select board seats to fill, as Chairman James Amidon announced his departure from the board after many years of service, along with Robert Forbes, another long-serving member.
Small town, and it's kind of a big deal. So. And I'm going to miss it a lot. Thank you for all your support over there.
Something just doesn't seem right now.
Same as Jim. It's a great town. It's an honor to serve.
Boy, I am confused now.
Voters elected Vincent Annunziata and James Fleming to replace them. One article asked if the town should spend $5,000 for state police coverage, a decrease from about $86,000 4 years ago, when the community had been hit by a wave of burglaries and other issues believed to be drug-related. Things have settled down a bit since then, allowing the town to scale back on its state police contract. But it was the local option tax and the cannabis questions that drew the most discussion. Residents were asked to consider a local option tax of 1% on sales, alcohol, rooms, and meals that's in place in 21 other Vermont communities. From the start, it was clear this was not going to be an easy sell.
Here to come to this community, and yet now you want to tax them more, and you're trying to do economic development to encourage that, and part of that development now is to charge these people more for that. That seems to me that's going the wrong way. And, tax and keep giving out more, that, at some point we got to draw a line.
I just want to state for the record, there is no way to prove that this tax will reduce your property taxes, period.
The reasoning behind it is to reduce the burden on local real estate property tax owners. And there are a lot of visitors to the community who would be able to share in municipal expenses. 1% on $100 is $1. A lot of folks would not be feeling that in larger purchases like that. But I absolutely agree with you. The state administration proportion of 33% is outrageous, frankly, in my opinion. But that's what it is.
Will you be able to tax Airbnbs and VRBOs? I mean, how do you know that somebody's using their house as an Airbnb?
Airbnbs are currently collecting rooms and meals tax, but not sales tax. And Airbnb in particular, but this doesn't apply to all platforms that do short-term rentals or, that kind of home sharing sorts of things. But they collect the rooms and meals tax at the point of an agreement on their platform, and they send a lump sum of money to the state of Vermont for all the rooms and meals tax that they collect. So there is tax being paid through Airbnb. It's not being done through all the platforms that do that. And how to track who is participating in that kind of rental seems to be elusive still.
In the end, a paper ballot vote was called for, and voters gave it a thumbs down by a 75 to 44 margin. Town Administrator Shane O'Keefe was philosophical about the outcome.
It wasn't part of this year's budget or even next year's budget. It wasn't built into the budget in any way. We were looking at it as just another way of trying to bring in revenue to pay for municipal services and by those, and to also collect money from those who don't live in the community but who do use municipal services. The voters said loud and clear that they're not interested in that, and that's their decision, and we move on from there.
After voters endorsed establishing an Emerald Ash Borer Fund with a $3,000 appropriation to help build reserves to pay for cutting down imperiled ash trees, it was on to the cannabis question, which also prompted an extended discussion.
What we know about cannabis is that it has been used as a medicine for over 5,000 years all around the world, even in this country up until the early 20th century when prohibition went into effect.
But I just want to make sure that we're thinking about the health of our young people and their brain development when we thoughtfully go into a potentially commercialized market. And I'm not sure that without knowing what the state has plans for me, I'm not sure that we're ready to make that decision for Londonderry until we see what the state has.
I'm against this because it's my understanding that if you're driving while high, there's not a particularly effective way to assess that the way you can if you're inebriated. So my concern is just around safety.
Town Clerk and State Representative Kelly Piala told the residents attending the town meeting that this was a purely advisory vote that would not change any local ordinances or bylaws.
I will say that this article, in terms of town government, is non-binding. It makes a statement about Londonderry, but it does not do anything to affect our zoning bylaws. It does not do anything to affect our relationship to what we would have to do to be in compliance with state law. If a law does pass, right now it is not legal to sell cannabis unless you're in a medical dispensary and you're a registered patient. So even if this article passes based on who is in the room today, it does not mean that Londonderry is going to be a haven for cannabis-related business.
In the end, the article won approval by a 55 to 32 margin after a paper ballot vote. 4 hours after it began, voters had also approved a general fund budget of $2.26 million, along with approving several other revenues for the highway budget, the fire protection company, the library and rescue squad, among others. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.